Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite the show, as we have a lot to get to in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Chargers getting the job done against the Raiders and locking up the Vikings. Now can they take down the Houston Texans? It'll be tough. The Chargers look like they can do it. The Rams, well, they lost to the Seahawks, but they didn't have the start. They kept it close, actually, so I don't think they ultimately but the Rams play the Vikings. And the Rams take down the Minnesota Vikings for a second straight time this season. Also, the Lakers have lost two straight games, so the problem is they have won two straight. Can they right the ship and get back on track to the Chargers tomorrow? Also, the Clippers wound up winning their first game of 2025, only to lose their second game. And USC Wilson took a big showdown against Maryland on the road. And UCLA then unfortunately dropped a tough one against Michigan. Fourth quarter ruling, but they are still having themselves a great season. All that and more here on the SoCal Sports Show. It's Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Sports Show here on iSports Radio. Your decision, all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Spring Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, Wednesday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way in episode 211 of the SoCal Spring Sports Show. Without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Spring Sports Show would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would definitely appreciate it. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of this month, and with your help, we can definitely make it happen. And also make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Spring Sports Show, our merchandise shop where you can cop all sorts of t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies for the winter, and so much more. Also check out the Hall of Fame, where we inducted 4 new Hall of Famers, and you can check me out, who was inductee number 10, and so much more. For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports days around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Vital Apparel, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, and we actually have one more that we'll be debuting on the SoCal Spring Sports Show. So without any further delay, let's get on in to what our sponsors are all about.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out our website as well as our sponsors. We actually have one more sponsor we would like to give a shout out to, and they just were recently a sponsor 2 days ago, and that is actually Raw Nutrition. So use our code IESR to get 10% off of your next purchase and get those New Year's games underway. So we would like to make a huge thank you to Raw Nutrition for being the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio and partner of IE Sports Radio. We definitely appreciate it. And the way you can follow the SoCal Spring Sports Show on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SoCal Show IESR, and you can follow me personally at Teran Rodriguez 1. All right, now let's get on into the SoCal sports action. So start with the NFL, just because NFL is king. So the Chargers, they managed to pick up the win last Sunday. They took down the Las Vegas Raiders, winning 34-20 on the road. Now, playing at Allegiant Stadium has kind of been the house of horrors for the Chargers, and sweeping the season series as well as kind of been the house of horrors for the Chargers. But they're able to do so. This was a Raiders team that was pretty much that should have been bent on tanking the rest of the season, but the Chargers had hopes of getting the 5 seed, and they actually did have a chance of getting the 5 seed. Sorry, I'm just adjusting myself. So let's adjust my camera as well. But yeah, the Chargers, they managed to pull out the win. They started off really slow. It was kind of a sluggish start, in my opinion. They're actually down 10-3 at one point in the second quarter, and I was kind of fearing the worst. I was thinking, are the Chargers really going to mess this up? Because they actually saw the Cincinnati Bengals take down the Pittsburgh Steelers, so all the Chargers just needed to do was beat the Raiders. And seeing the Chargers see Cincinnati take down Pittsburgh, I'm guessing that was probably the incentive to play their starts, because I'm guessing had the Steelers beaten the Bengals, then the Chargers would have had no business playing their starters in a meaningless game. So yeah, the Chargers were able to play their starters, and eventually, even though they were down 10-9, they got an interception from Deion Henley, and eventually Justin Herbert found the unlikeliest of unlikely receivers, DJ Chark, for his first touchdown catch as a Charger. And eventually, Justin Herbert found Ladd McConkey for the 2-point conversion. It was a very good 2-point conversion. If you haven't seen it, definitely see it. So Chargers were up 17-10 at halftime. They eventually moved up to being up 20-10, even though both teams then exchanged field goals in the third quarter. And then eventually the Chargers were up 20-13. Chargers eventually got the ball back, and eventually they marched down the field and they got another touchdown, courtesy of Will Dissly from Justin Herbert. So suddenly it's 27-13. And eventually the Chargers milk off quite a bit of clock, and the Raiders just weren't able to do anything with the ball. And eventually Hassan Haskins punched it in for a 2-yard touchdown run, and it was 34-13. So that was good. That was very good. And it wasn't just those guys having big games. It was Quentin Johnson having himself a monster game. He had 186 receiving yards on 13 catches, which the 186 receiving yards are the most he's had, I think, in any game. Not even at TCU did he have those numbers. So that's really good. Justin Herbert as a whole, he was 28 for 36. He had 346 passing yards and 2 touchdown passes. So that's another big thing right there. That was probably his best game, and he actually led all quarterbacks in Week 18 with in terms of passing yards. So good on Justin Herbert for having himself a game. And yeah, this was a Raiders team that had no business being in this game from the get-go. So eventually the Raiders got a late touchdown as Aiden O'Connell found Brock Bowers for a 12-yard touchdown pass. So Brock Bowers was kind of the player I was hoping the Chargers would draft, but then I realized, wait, Chargers need offensive line help. So that's why Joe Alt was there. Anyway, so the Chargers finished up the season 11-6. So they more than doubled their win total from last year, and they actually went 4-2 in the division after going a whopping 1-5. So very good improvement. But now the Chargers are back in action as they actually open up the NFL wildcard round against the Houston Texans on Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. So it seems like it's death taxes and the Houston Texans getting this 1:30 p.m. Pacific time slot. The only difference is from last year is that it's actually going to be televised on CBS as opposed to being televised on NBC, but I digress. All right, so this is going to be a tricky matchup. So the last time these two teams met was 2 years ago. Two seasons ago, when the Chargers wound up meeting the Houston Texans in a close affair, which shouldn't have even been close, if I'm being 100% realistic. And that was when the Texans were pretty much tanking for C.J. Stroud, who is currently the quarterback for the Texans right now. So, yeah, this is going to be one of those tricky matchups. I mean, on paper, it looks like the Chargers can beat the Texans, but Texans have home court, and they have a much better roster than most people give them credit for. I mean, the Texans don't have Stephon Diggs. He's out for the season. Tank Dell's also out for the season. But they still have Nico Collins and Robert Woods. Yeah, the Robert Woods, formerly of the Rams and of Gardena Serra High School. So the Chargers may have their work cut out a little. And then C.J. Stroud is still pretty darn good. It's not that he's bad. It's just that his O-line doesn't do him any favors, even though Laramie Tunsil is really good. So Chargers are going to need to get to C.J. Stroud sooner rather than later. I will say for the Chargers is that their safety core is getting more healthy, as this past Sunday they saw the return of Alohi Gilman, and Derwin James had himself a season. He's had a season. He's had 5.5 sacks, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. So I'm hoping that the Chargers can continue their winning ways. And Adam Cronk pops in the chat room. He says, Teran, good afternoon. Well, good afternoon to you too, Adam. Thank you for popping in. All right, but this is going to be – I feel the Chargers definitely have their weaknesses, though. I mean, the Chargers really got to slow down the run game. Whether it's Dameon Pierce or whether it's Joe Mixon, the Chargers really have to slow down the run, because it seems like running backs have seemed to get their way against the Chargers, and that's something the Chargers can't allow. And they also have to watch out the screen passes. It seems like the Chargers can't seem to stop the screen passes, and then that eventually leads to first downs and then some. So while C.J. Stroud obviously lacks the receivers, he still has the running backs to eventually get those dink and dunks and those big yards. So we shall see in terms of that. And then the defense is going to be pretty stingy as well, as Derek Stingley Jr. is definitely worth noting. He's a fantastic cornerback. Now, I'm willing to wonder if the Chargers put Ladd McConkey at the slot position, would Derek Stingley Jr. have to switch to guarding the slot? And the good thing about Quentin Johnston's big game is he had himself a big game, and just in time, because now Justin Herbert has another receiver he can go to in terms of throwing the ball to. So he doesn't have to keep going to Ladd McConkey. He didn't even need to go to Ladd McConkey too many times against the Raiders. And then he also has Darius Davis, Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst. Those are two good tight ends as well. And the Chargers have to reestablish the run game. Whether J.K. Dobbins is back. He's 2 games back from his stint on IR. They also have Gus Edwards, who's been doing solid. They also have Kimani Vidal. So, and the O-line, that's another big concern right there. The O-line, I mean, it's not bad, but at the same time, their only big concern would be Rashawn Slater. Now, Rashawn Slater did not play in the win against the Raiders. He actually got hurt in warm-ups, and then he was held out. The good news is that he actually practiced, whether it was yesterday or today, but either way, he practiced, and he is. I hope that's good news if you ask me. I'm no doctor, but that's at least some good news, because if the Chargers can get Rashawn Slater out there, that could pay dividends, because I think Will Anderson is also a thing as well. So the Chargers really need all the pass protection that they can get, and eventually the run block and whatnot. So. And Chargers only allowed through the past 2 games, the Chargers have only lost 1 sack. Now, I know it's against the Patriots and it's against the Raiders, but 1 sack goes quite a long way. So, and this is why you have these offensive linemen that you drafted or signed and whatnot. So, yeah, I really think the Chargers can win this, but it's going to be so tough, in my opinion. So, can the Chargers win their first playoff game since the 2018-19 season? So, back in that season, that was when Anthony Lynn was head coach and the Chargers faced a young Lamar Jackson and Baltimore Ravens team. Now they are under Jim Harbaugh, and they're going to look to try to avenge their playoff loss from 2 seasons ago. Now I'm hoping the 5 seed isn't going to be another curse. Like the last time the Chargers were the 5 seed of the playoffs, well, we don't like to talk about it. It was not fun times as a Chargers fan. But for me, I think the Chargers are a much better team. They have better coaching. They have a better defensive scheme. Their defense in terms of scoring is the number 1 defense. Their defense has had its moments. I think they're 6th in sacks. My only fear is the run game because Joe Mixon is such a strong running back. So I really want to see the Chargers. And also another thing, I really want to see the Chargers get Justin Herbert his first playoff win because he's only one of 2 quarterbacks from his class to not have a playoff win. Every other quarterback, other than another said quarterback named Tua Tagovailoa, has not won a playoff game. So Chargers really need to get this playoff win off their backs. And they really need to shut everyone up saying about what Justin Herbert has not done because he's a talented quarterback. This season alone, Justin Herbert became only the 2nd quarterback to surpass 20,000 passing yards in his first 5 seasons. So he actually has the most passing yards of any quarterback in his first 5 seasons in the league. So yeah, it just goes to show that the Chargers have come a long way, and Justin Herbert is a talented quarterback. He is indeed a top 10 quarterback, and maybe you could argue that he's a top 5 quarterback. That may sound like I'm pushing it, but you got Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, Jalen Hurts, and then who would be number 5? It could be Justin Herbert, but there are other good, talented quarterbacks out there as well. So, but I think for the hierarchy of quarterbacks, you've got Mahomes, Hurts, when healthy, Lamar, and then Josh Allen. So my thing is for the Chargers, and the biggest difference between the Chargers now than back in 2022 when Staley was in his final year as the final full season as head coach, is that they have good team camaraderie, and more importantly, they can run the ball effectively. I think they have a better run game that they did now than they did then. And this is no knock on Austin Eckler. I mean, you can't argue with this. I mean, the only running back the Chargers had was Austin Eckler, and they would just run the ball with him. And then Larry Roundtree was kind of the running back too, which he didn't really get a chance to see a whole lot of time, as well as Joshua Kelly, which he had his moments, but he wasn't all that great. And then also the Chargers are coming in with most of their receiving core healthy. Unlike 2022 when Brandon Staley made the poor decision of playing his starters and eventually Mike Williams got hurt, now the Chargers have most of their receivers. And now, obviously, the receivers aren't the greatest. They're not the big names. But Ladd McConkey has had himself a great season. Quentin Johnston is having himself a bounce-back season from last year. Darius Davis has performed well, even though he's a kickoff returner or a punt returner. Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst have developed well into 2 great tight ends. Well, not like great, but still pretty solid. And then Joshua Palmer, that's someone else that the Chargers need to get involved in terms of the passing game. If they can get him involved, then honestly, they should be fine. So my thing for the Chargers is they got to really play some sound, solid football. And like I said, they've got the team camaraderie to do so. And they don't have their offensive coordinator. While he isn't really the greatest, he's certainly a step up from Joe Lombardi. I mean, Greg Roman has had his moments, but at least he's incorporating to run the ball more. Because, again, the Chargers did not have the greatest run game back when Brandon Staley was head coach. So that's my little take right there. So you're probably wondering what my final score prediction will be. And obviously I have the Chargers winning. I have them winning 28-20. I think this is going to be a close game. But I think the Chargers control the clock and they're able to pick up the win, in my opinion. I think this is the year where the Chargers really have to clutch up. They really have to prove everyone that they are a contender. Now, my thing is for the Chargers, I don't expect them to win the Super Bowl. I mean, if my big hope for them is I hope they at least get out of round one. If they don't get out of round one, then tough tamale. But honestly, I would like nothing more to see Justin Herbert get his first playoff win. I would like nothing more to see everyone and their moms silence their criticism of Justin Herbert, because all Justin Herbert needed was the right coach, right coordinator, right everything, and a defense that actually can hold up. Now, the Chargers obviously they're not going to get a layup with the Texans. The Texans are obviously, they haven't been the same as they were starting off, and they're not the same team as last year, even though they just barely snuck into the playoffs last year. But the Texans, they're kind of reeling, and we'll see if C.J. Stroud can have another big performance like he did last year. But I think the Chargers can really show up to this game. I know they're on the road, but they have experience playing on the road, and they're used to playing on the road, whether it's facing opposing fans at SoFi, even though the fan base has risen up. Or whether it's in their past two games where they've traveled to New England and Las Vegas. But yeah, I got the Chargers winning 28-20. Again, as a Chargers fan, I know y'all are seeing me wearing a Rams jersey, but as a Chargers fan, I'm really hoping the Chargers can get this win. I mean, again, if they could just get one playoff win, I will be content the rest of the way. Because this is what the Chargers wanted. This is why they were watching on their TVs on Saturdays, hoping that the Steelers would lose. And this was why I was watching on Saturday, hoping that the Steelers would lose. Because the Chargers match up so much better against the Texans than they do against the Ravens. I think against the Ravens, hostile environment, John Harbaugh has never lost to his brother Jim. Derrick Henry has been a thing. Lamar Jackson is just a fantastic quarterback. And I just think that the Chargers would not match up well against the Ravens. So I think the Chargers, this is the best case scenario for the Chargers, and I feel that they really need to come up clutch against said Texans team. But I think the Chargers will win, but it's not going to be an easy game. I think it's going to come down to the Chargers having good clock management. So there you go. Adam Karnick puts this in the chat room. So we're destined for the Chargers and Rams to both host their conference championship games, right? Well, here's the thing about that. That would be implying that the Chargers would beat the Chiefs, or the Chiefs would be losing in the next round, and that the Chargers are the highest seed remaining in the playoffs. So that would mean they'd either have to face the Steelers, or the Broncos. Yeah, the Steelers or the Broncos. But that's implying they get there, because if that were to happen, then boy howdy, that would be chaos. But I see what Adam's referring to, because there was actually a post on Reddit which actually had, imagine if the Rams and the Chargers both made it to the Super Bowl, or they both play their conference championship or whatnot, which my boy Spuds actually posted, and then he got lots of backlash but he knew that people wouldn't get the Reddit post. But yeah, I mean, if the Rams, that would be implying that the Rams would be the highest remaining seed as well. That would mean that they'd be hosting kind of like they did back in 2021 when they hosted the Niners. But that would take a lot. Again, that would take a lot. That requires the Rams to get past the first round, get past the second round, and hope that they don't draw the Eagles, Bucks, or Lions. But again, that implies that they'll be facing the Commanders, the Packers, or either of those two. So Adam, a lot would need to happen in order for the Rams and Chargers to host their conference championship games. But if it does happen, then I imagine it's going to be played on different days, which would be wild if you ask me. And speaking of the Rams, let's go on into some Rams action. So the Rams sat their starters, and they fell to the Seattle Seahawks 30-25, which I'm actually surprised the Rams actually kept it that close. Now, I was expecting a loss regardless, so what do you got? I don't really want to go over this matchup just because the Rams wound up locking up the NFC West. And let's be honest, this game didn't really have too much meaning in my opinion. Against the Seahawks, the starter was Jimmy Garoppolo, which, I mean, I remember when I said Justin Herbert had the most passing yards in Week 18? Well, guess who had the second most? Jimmy Garoppolo. So, yeah, that was quite something for the Rams to do. I mean, at least Jimmy Garoppolo looked solid. He had 2 passing touchdowns, and he had 334 passing yards, which wasn't bad. His favorite receiver was Jordan Whittingham, even though he only had 3 catches, and he had 86 receiving yards. But yeah, the Rams, there's not much to go over in this matchup. Like, they were down they were down all game, if not. Yeah, they did lead at one point. They led 25-24 at one point of the game, which was in the middle of the fourth quarter. But at the same time, again, the Rams were resting all their starters. So no Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua, no Matthew Stafford, no anybody. If anything, the Rams actually just played some starters, which didn't have experience. And then the Seahawks wound up winning a game, which good for them. They wound up finishing 7-1 away, and they wound up finishing 10-7, but they didn't make the playoffs. So anyway, yeah, there's not much to go over with this game. The Rams knew what their playoff fate was. Now, I actually don't agree with the Rams sitting all their starters. I think the Rams should have played some of their starters and locked up the 3 seed, but not with the Rams losing and the Bucs winning. The Rams actually moved down to the 4 seed. So I think what Sean McVay should have done is he should have either waited until the Bucs game to game time decision his players, or just play some of his starters and then build up a lead. I get it. You don't want to play your starters to the point where they could get injured. You don't want to be a Brandon Staley where you play your starters and risk them getting hurt. But at the same time, you could improve your playoff seed. But at the same time, you could also wind up falling into a trap where you could play the Eagles in the next round as opposed to playing Detroit. So I don't know. This is all Sean McVay's thing. Maybe he knows something that we don't. I mean, the only one team I don't think the Rams stack up good against are the Philadelphia Eagles. That is a matchup nightmare just because Saquon Barkley. Nothing more needs to be said. And maybe Jalen Hurts, depending on what his status is going to be, because he's still in concussion protocol. But I digress. But I still think the Eagles are a matchup nightmare. The Lions are a good matchup just because when healthy, the Rams can definitely do some damage. I really think that with Puka Nacua, the Rams could have had a much better chance at beating the Lions. And I think the defense has matured more. I think the defense has grown a lot. So they're not going to be the inexperienced bunch that is going to be allowing big run after big run after big run. So you have that. And I think the Rams can somewhat match up well against the Bucs. I mean, they'll certainly match up better than the Chargers did, but I don't know. Right now, the Rams can only focus on their opponent at hand, being the Minnesota Vikings. That's going to be a Monday night game. So, man, I mean, at least the Rams get some more rest. So, like, the starters need more rest, that's for sure. But the Rams and Vikings will be playing their second matchup. The first meeting was actually this season where the Rams wound up winning in week number, I think it was week 8 or week 7. Either way, they wound up winning 30-20, which they kind of got away with the face mask penalty, but missed calls are part of the game. It should never come down to missed calls or whatnot, so I don't care. But for the Rams, they faced a Minnesota Vikings team which put up a dookie poo against the Detroit Lions team on the road. So if the Rams can get to Sam Darnold sooner rather than later, I think the Rams could really take advantage of this matchup. I think the Rams defense is much better than it was. And even though the Rams did have some struggles against the Vikings, they had to kind of win in a high-scoring affair. Well, first half was a high-scoring affair, and second half was kind of a little bit of a chess match. But I think the Rams defense has improved. I'm hoping for the Rams' sake they're able to get everything together because the offense, this is kind of my thing for the Rams. other than the game against the Seahawks, their previous 3 games against the Niners, Jets, and Cardinals, they scored below 20 points, which is unacceptable. The offense really needs to get clicking right away. And that kind of says a lot about the Rams, because the Rams do have a good offense. They've got Kyron Williams. They have Tyler Higbee back. He was a starter that played, but if you remember, Tyler Higbee didn't have a whole lot of reps going into the season. He only played, I think, 3 games this season. So yeah, you have Tyler Higbee back. You have Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. You have Tyler Robinson. You have, I forget the Allen Robinson, and then so on and so forth. So I think for the Rams, they should be able to handle the Vikings. My only concern is Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and maybe Aaron Jones. But other than that, I think the Rams should be fine. So their secondary is going to be busy, that's for sure. So and their pass rush is going to also need to get a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold. And if they can do so, they can definitely be victorious against the Minnesota Vikings. Because Minnesota, I get it, they're a 14-win team, but let's not forget that they still have they're not without their flaws. I mean, their loss against the Lions, that's the type of game that can diminish spirits. And I know they've only had 3 losses all season, and they've only lost twice by 2+ scores. But I'm still not sold on the Vikings. So I think the Rams can get the win, and I think they can beat the Vikings a second time. Now, for those that actually know these type of trends and whatnot, the Rams are kind of in that trend where ever since they've moved to LA, they've had a trend where they've missed the playoffs, made the playoffs, and made the Super Bowl. So this is year 9 of the Rams being in LA. So the Rams, in their first year of being back in LA, they missed the playoffs. Second year, they made the playoffs. Third year, made the Super Bowl. Fourth year, missed the playoffs. Fifth year, made the playoffs. Sixth year, made and won the Super Bowl. Seventh year, missed the playoffs. Eighth year, made the playoffs. You see the trend? We're in year 9, so Rams could be seeing themselves back in the Super Bowl, but again, that's just a trend and a superstition. But for this game, I got the Rams beating the Vikings 27-21. I think, again, it's going to be a close game. I think it boils down to the defense, and I'm sure there's not going to be another missed penalty like there was previously. And I think Sean McVay, knowing Kevin O'Connell's game style back when O'Connell was the offensive coordinator for the Rams, is going to pay dividends. But that's my final score prediction. I think the Rams get by the Vikings. It certainly isn't going to be easy, but I think the Rams can do it. I definitely think they're going to do it. And hopefully for their sake, they will get the chance to play the game at SoFi Stadium, and there won't have to be any travelings and whatnot. But yeah, I got the Rams beating the Vikings. And Larry B says, let's go, Teran. Hey, thank you, Larry B. I appreciate you for popping in. But yeah, I got the Rams winning. I think both teams from LA can make it out of the first round. The last time the Chargers and the Rams made the postseason was the 2018-2019 season, where the Rams went to the Super Bowl only to lose to that pesky Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. So that superstition's looking pretty good. And my boy Spuds on X, who is a former 3-and-Out guest for the primetime face-offs, he actually made note of this. He made note saying the Rams lost their final regular season game to a division rival, and even though they locked up the division, and then they wound up making the Super Bowl. So and you know that superstition. All these superstitions are starting to become oh so true. It feels like the perfect storm for the Rams to make the playoffs, but the Rams have to get past Minnesota first. And this Rams team has come such a long way. I mean, through 1-4, they were 1-4 through their first 5 games, and everyone was counting them out. Everyone was thinking, I think the Rams are cooked. They're not going to win the rest of the way. But then everyone got healthy, and then everyone managed to contribute and help out the Rams and whatnot. So eventually, the Rams were the division champions, and I know they lost. Their 5-game winning streak got snapped, but maybe the loss isn't a bad thing because they got the loss out of the way, and they can only go up from here. Besides, they rested their starters. But we shall see. But that's going to do it for the Rams and Chargers portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will have some discussion on the Lakers and Clippers, as well as some USC and UCLA women's hoops. And then we've got the Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You were listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter at any time. Be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Sin City Sports with Cale Henderson. He just had his first show in a little bit after his wife was after being on maternity leave, and after he and his wife gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. And also check out Let's Find About DMV Sports with Mike Pat on Saturdays. Let's get it back into the SoCal sports action. So we got to talk a little bit of Lakers. Oh man, this was not fun. So yes, so as everyone knows, I am at my brother's apartment in Dallas, Fort Worth, and yeah, I'm not in my own house. But the Lakers, after they started the season with 2 wins in 2025, it was looking pretty good for them. Now they've lost 2 straight, and one of their losses was to the Houston Rockets, which they lost 119 to 115, so not too bad. I mean, Lakers were trailing. I think they were down by as much as 17, but they nibbled away at the lead and almost made a comeback, but the Lakers just made one too many errors, so That's been the Lakers the last few years post-championship. And then the Lakers, oh my God. Yesterday, I had the dishonor of seeing this game, the Lakers versus the Mavericks on TV. And let's just say I wish I didn't turn this game on. But the Lakers wound up getting thumped by the Dallas Mavericks, 118-97. So it's bad enough I'm visiting my brother in Dallas-Fort Worth. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the Dallas-Fort Worth. I like where my brother lives. But did they really have to lose to the Dallas Mavericks? Because at one point, the Lakers were up 7 with about less than 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. And then the Warriors just the Lakers allow former Warriors player Klay Thompson to hit not 1, not 2, but 3 threes in a row. And suddenly the Lakers' 1 7-point lead turned into a 2-point deficit. And then eventually the Mavs got a late basket and ended the second quarter on an 11-0 run. And that was the big turning point right there. Allowing that 11-0 run was the worst thing to happen for the Lakers, as they just didn't look the same. And Reggie Miller was basically said it best on the broadcast. The Lakers were literally playing with their food. They weren't hustling back defensively, and they were making excuses. They were trying to get the refs to bail them out, which is not like the Lakers. And they just lack discipline. And I feel, and even Charles Barkley said it after the game. He says they always have a scapegoat, or they always find the way to blame someone, whether it's blaming Frank Vogel, whether it's blaming Russell Westbrook, whether it's blaming Darvin Ham, whether it's blaming D'Angelo Russell. There needs to be some sort of accountability for the Lakers. This is just downright sad. They just can't keep blaming everybody, because this is, I get it. The Lakers have a lot of expectations. They have LeBron James. They have Anthony Davis, who looks like he is back to playing after suffering that injury against the Golden State Warriors. But I get it. The Lakers have a lot of pressure on them because they have some of the best talent in the world. But what I don't get is there needs to be accountability. So I'm hoping for the Lakers' sake they could take accountability on who will step up. So that's basically my little spiel right there. And yeah, I really hope the Lakers can figure it out, because this whole thing's ridiculous. It's the Lakers just can't keep going through coaches one by one. And Rob Pelinka, he's going to actually step up too, because if I were him, I'd start fearing on if his job would be on the line, because dude literally can't keep getting away with botched seasons. I mean, it's good that they got Dorian Finney-Smith. That's cool right there. But honestly, he's a little past his prime. Now, a few years ago, maybe he would have done great with the Lakers. But right now, I don't know. But for the Lakers, they're 20-16. They're still in the top 6 of the Western Conference, meaning they wouldn't have to play in the play-in round. And they've got 8 games in Los Angeles. So I actually put 8-game homestand, but one of their games will be against the Clippers at Intuit Arena. So that's kind of a mistake on my end. But there's a lot of Laker fans in Los Angeles, or at least I hope there still is. Anyway, so the Lakers are back in action Thursday when they host the Charlotte Hornets. Again, it's going to be the start of an 8-game homestand, or an 8-game stretch where they won't have to leave Southern California. So that's good. The Lakers get to sleep in their own beds. The only downfall is that they kind of have to breathe in the bad air, but I digress. So that's that for the Lakers right there. I mean, again, it's nothing they still can't handle. I mean, they're kind of approaching that halfway point of the season, so I think it's kind of semi-go time for the Lakers. And then for the Clippers, last time we talked about them, they lost their first game of 2025, and they ended 2025 on a bad note. Thankfully for the Clippers' sake, they were able to pick up a 131-105 win over the Atlanta Hawks. So they got their first win in 2025. Awesome sauce. But they followed that up, losing a heartbreaker to the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road. They lost 108-106. Man, I think that's kind of what best describes the Clippers, losing in that type of fashion. And they allowed Minnesota to shoot 41% from downtown, which is unacceptable. and they allowed the Timberwolves to shoot nearly 50%. So, and they got out rebounded 55-49. So, yeah, and they allowed Anthony Edwards to score 37 points, and they allowed him to get 8 assists, and allow Rudy Gobert to get 18 rebounds. So yeah, it was all sorts of bad for the Clippers in this one. I mean, this one I felt like the Clippers had their chances, but it just wasn't meant to be. And the Timberwolves are still a good team, even though the record kind of says otherwise. I just think that the Clippers, in my opinion, they do need to make a little bit of a move to get a superstar. Now, in that game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think that was the game that saw the return of Kawhi Leonard. So, yeah, Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell had 20 points. So, and Kawhi Leonard also had 20. Oh, no, Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell saw their return against the Atlanta Hawks. So against the Atlanta Hawks, that's when those two players returned. So it's been a minute since Kawhi Leonard has played. Yeah, the dude has been battling knee injuries like there's nobody's business. But at least Kawhi Leonard is back, and hopefully, knock on wood, the Clippers can keep him healthy and he doesn't have to go back on IR. So that's some positives right there. The Clippers do have Kawhi Leonard back. So good for them. The Clippers are back in action tonight when they hit the road to the Mile High City to take on the Denver Nuggets at 6 p.m. And I think for the Clippers, again, they're kind of in the same situation as the Lakers. As a matter of fact, they actually have the same record as said Lakers team, as they are 20-16. But I think since the Lakers beat the Clippers in the only meeting between the two teams so far, the Clippers kind of have that. Okay, we're back. I'm sorry. Random spam call. That spam caller just earned Dum Dum of the Week. I don't care. That spam caller just earned Dum Dum of the Week but I guess I should have put my phone on like do not disturb mode or whatnot. So that's kind of on me, but whatever. Anyway, so the Clippers are actually ranked number 9 in the current ESPN top 10 power rankings, which that actually. Yeah, they're number 9 while the Lakers are number 8. So, cool. Anyway, so the Clippers, they got Kawhi Leonard back. They have James Harden, Norman Powell, Ibaka Zubac, and Robert. So, I'm kind of wondering if the Clippers can keep up their consistency. I hope they can. Maybe they should make a trade. I mean, maybe get some more help for Kawhi Leonard and company. I mean, the talent they have isn't bad. I just think that it's kind of past their prime. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to complain about the talent that they have because the Clippers aren't doing that bad. But I will say for the Clippers, maybe they can get a few more young guys. I feel they're just they have these rental players and whatnot that again, are kind of past their prime. But I think for the Clippers, they're in good shape, and knowing the Clippers, they'll probably make some sort of trade because they have a good coach in Tyronn Lue. I think Tyronn Lue can definitely bring out the best in any player. And that's not just me saying that from a SoCal perspective. That's me saying that in terms of me saying that the Clippers have seen lots of success with Tyronn Lue. And there's a reason why Tyronn Lue has not been fired. And there's the glitch again. God dang it. I was hoping the glitch wouldn't happen until I was done with the NBA segment, but unfortunately was too late. But anyway, that's that for the Clippers right there. And knowing the Clippers, I'm certain they'll make a trade to try to get some more superstar help for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. And same could be said for the Lakers. I think the Lakers need to make another trade. I know they have the Dorian Finney-Smith trade, but I think they could still make some more trades. I don't think getting Jimmy Butler would help either the Lakers or the Clippers, just because dude has been suspended for 7 games, and dude is getting old by the day, and he's got a big contract. So I don't think the Lakers should make a trade for Jimmy Butler, as well as the Clippers. But that's going to do it for the Lakers and Clippers segment of the show. We're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we will talk some college hoops, and then we will go over the Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You're listening to the SoCal Spring Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
And we are back with the final segment of the SoCal Spring Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as The Defining Moment with Larry B, which will be coming back sooner rather than later. And check out The Neutral Zone with Zach Puplis and Adam Karnick. And speaking of The Neutral Zone and some NHL, we're actually going to discuss a little bit of some hockey time. So why not go over a little bit of some hockey, just because we haven't talked about it in a little bit of a hot minute. So we'll start off with the Ducks, just because they're the less painless to go over. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. It still sucks to be a Ducks fan, just because even though they're not as bad as the Sharks, no offense to San Jose Sharks fans out there, and there's actually a second worst team than the Ducks, and that just so happens to be the Seattle Kraken. So it's been tough times for the Ducks. But anyway, their most recent game, they suffered a tough loss in overtime to the Calgary Flames. Yay. But they did beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. Woohoo! But they still lost to the Edmonton Oilers before that. But before they lost to the Oilers, they actually had a 3-game winning streak. Oh, my. a 3-game winning streak for the Ducks. Yeah, they even took down the Winnipeg Jets, the New Jersey Devils, and the Edmonton Oilers. So, oh my. That's kind of the reason why the Ducks aren't as bad as they actually are. And believe it or not, they're actually 6 points out of fourth place. Fourth place is occupied by the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames. So, yeah, there's that right there for the Ducks, as their next game is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time when they head down to the Lou to take on the St. Louis Blues. So as for the Kings, oh boy. Yeah, the Kings have kind of fallen off a little. They're actually not in second place anymore. They're actually in third place, which sucks. And their games have actually been postponed due to the wildfires that have most recently happened. So, yeah, I'll get to that a little bit later. But the good news is for the Kings is that they actually have won 4 in a row. So they've won 4 in a row after they lost 2 in a row to the Capitals and the Predators. Yeah, yikes. The Predators of all teams they lost to? Oh, gosh. But, yeah, the 4-game winning streak that the Kings had, they took down the Tampa Bay Lightning, the New Jersey Devils, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Edmonton Oilers. And again, the game against the Calgary Flames has been postponed, which means that the Kings' next game will be against the Winnipeg Jets on Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time as they take on the Jets in Winnipeg. So, yeah, that's a bummer. And it really sucks. And I don't know how this wildfire started. Hopefully it wasn't some lunatic starting the fire and whatnot. But, yeah, that really sucks for the Kings and whatnot. So, yeah, the Kings are back in action when they play said Winnipeg Jets team, and hopefully for their sake they can get back onto the ice sooner rather than later. Anyway, but that is that for the NHL portion of the show. So now let's move on to some college hoops, where USC and UCLA, they continue to kick some butt and take some names. And honestly, this is just really awesome sauce. I mean, UCLA, they're just mowing down opponents left and right. And hopefully they will get their challenge soon, and they don't go into the NCAA tournament undefeated. I don't know if they'll be like a South Carolina where they wound up going undefeated last season. But I will say at least one loss would do them somewhat good. That's because it's better to lose now than lose when it truly matters. And the Big Ten is obviously crawling with a lot of talent. Their next game is against Northwestern on Sunday. It's a home game, but hopefully for UCLA's sake, they will be able to play that game. And they have 2 games at home. They've got Northwestern and Penn State. And they also have Baylor, which is another big-time game. Looks like that Baylor game might be is going to be a neutral site game. Yeah, it's going to be a neutral site game when they play Baylor. And then Sunday, January 26th, the Lady Bruins will play the Maryland Terrapins on NBC. So that's going to be a fun game. That's going to be fun right there. So they won't get too much of a challenge until they face Maryland, which, speaking of Maryland, that's going to be USC's next opponent. So USC will be flying out to the DMV to take on Maryland. So Maryland is actually one of the few undefeated teams that remains, along with Ohio State and UCLA. But also Georgia Tech, and I guess Georgia Tech as well, but who cares about Georgia Tech? They're not in the Big Ten. But yeah, Maryland is going to be – they're going to be such a tough challenge. I really hope for USC's sake they can get the job done. I mean, Juju Watkins can do it all, but she needs help being the productive leader. Like, Maryland, I'm guessing, has like 2, 3, maybe even 4 big-time scores and whatnot. So I hope for USC's sake they're ready to play on the road. Their most recent game, they just blasted Rutgers 92-42. And I guess Rutgers' top player was benched because she's dumb. Okay, I'm just kidding. That's a cruel thing to say. I shouldn't say that. But she did something that, unfortunately, she just made a mistake on doing. But Rutgers got smashed by USC. And I'm guessing even with USC's with Rutgers' top player, USC still would have won by like 20 or 20 plus. So, and that's no knock on Rutgers, but they are the worst they are a team in the Big Ten that does not have a win, and they are hovering a little above 500. But what matters most is that USC is back in action tonight when they play Maryland on FS1. hoping that USC can get the job done. I really hope they can, because that Maryland team is going to be tough and talented. But we'll see what happens when it comes to this matchup. I think Maryland is going to be in for a rude awakening when they play USC. Like, if USC could play the way that they did against UConn before collapsing in that second half, I think USC can rule the world and whatnot. I think they can do whatever they want. But against Maryland, they're going to have their hands full. And the thing about USC is that they're like the higher ranked team than Maryland. But Maryland has a lot to lose, though. Their undefeated season is on the line. And contrary to what matchup predictor thinks, I think this one is going to be a 50-50 game. So we'll see what happens. Apparently USC is an 8.5 favorite. So hopefully for USC's sake, they don't get a big head. Okay, they're in 6.5 favorites. I guess USC opened up as an 8.5 point favorite, and then USC eventually turned into a 6.5 point favorite. So hopefully for USC's sake, they don't poop the bed. But that is that for some women's college hoops action. I'll be talking a lot more college hoops action once the NFL season is over with. But we'll talk some college men's basketball. So UCLA, which is kind of the best team in Southern California in terms of like college men's basketball, in terms of the hierarchy, they unfortunately suffered a tough loss to Michigan, losing 94-75. Yeah, remember when Michigan was so bad last year that they even lost to Long Beach State? I'm sorry, I still got as a Long Beach State alum, I still gotta keep making note of that. But remember when Michigan was so bad last year that I think they only won 4 games and they even fired Juwan Howard? Well, they've kind of turned it around ever since. Michigan is probably one of the best teams in the nation, and they could be the favorite to win it all, which, God, that's scary. But UCLA is still having a great season, and I'm almost certain UCLA will make the NCAA tournament. I mean, they've been ranked for a good chunk of the season, and I don't see why they don't miss. I don't see how they missed the NCAA tournament. Unless UCLA dips under 500 or they just go on a random cold streak, I think UCLA should be just fine. I mean, I know they also lost to Nebraska as well, but Nebraska's a solid team. Nebraska's not by any means bad. It's just that playing on the road in a very hostile environment is tough. So UCLA has lost 3 of their last 4, and they just barely beat Gonzaga. So lucky for UCLA, it's not 4 straight losses. But UCLA is back in action when they hit the road to the DMV to take on Maryland, and then they follow that up with a Monday road match against Rutgers. So you have that right there. And then I guess we'll talk a little USC while we're on the topic of Big Ten men's basketball. Their most recent game saw them losing to Michigan 85-74. They actually played quite tough, though. I mean, against Michigan, USC was fighting tooth and nail with the Wolverines. Heck, even Eric Musselman was getting the crowd into it, and USC's players were diving for the ball. And I think for USC, they have a lot to build off this. Unfortunately, Danny Wolf kind of went off for a double-double. He had 21 points and 13 boards. But at least for USC, they didn't get blown out. And no offense to UCLA, of course, but again, they didn't get blown out. They didn't get decimated. And there's a reason why Michigan is the team that has the most conference wins in said Big Ten conference. The only other team that's undefeated, however, in said Big Ten conference is Michigan State. But all in all, for USC, they shouldn't really feel too bad about this loss. Again, they were in that game for the most part. It doesn't help when their best player is Desmond Claude, who is almost averaging 15 points per game. And then St. Thomas is leading them in assists with 4.3 assists. And then they've got Josh Cohen who's leading them in field goal percentage. St. Thomas is also leading USC in terms of rebounds per game with 5.8. So, yeah, USC, they may not be the most tallest team, but they have some sort of athleticism. They've also got Chibuzo Agbo, who's averaging 12.8 points per game. They have Terrence Williams II, who's averaging 10.6 points per game. Cohen is averaging 9.7 points per game, and so on and so forth. So as long as USC, this year it's not going to be the flashiest and splashiest year for USC, but next year and beyond, USC is going to look pretty good, and Eric Musselman is one of the reasons why USC looks pretty darn good. And that's, again, it's no ultimate knock on Andy Enfield, but Andy Enfield, you just didn't get that same vibe that Eric Musselman had. So thank you, Arkansas, for firing him and sending him over. Anyway, but that's going to do it for the college hoops portion of the show. Now we got to give out Dum Dum of the Week. So Dum Dum of the Week is an award I like to give out to, which nobody is safe from. So this award can go out to anybody, but I only have one Dum Dum of the Week to give out, and that is actually to the NCAA and its committee. So for those that are wondering, this past Sunday night was actually the NCAA Division III National Championship game between North Central and Mount Union. I'm sorry. I was wondering who that purple team was. But Mount Union and North Central, they were facing each other in the NCAA Division III National Championship in football, in college football. So you're probably wondering, well, who cares about that? Well, I do, because first and foremost, it's a national championship. Second and foremost, it's college football, and I'm the co-host for 3 and Out College Edition. And third, again, these players deserve the respect that Division II, Division I players deserve as well. So there you go. So for Division III football fans, however, they probably were disgusted when they saw this. First and foremost, this game was available on ESPN Plus, which is unacceptable. Second and foremost, and this is the big kicker on why the NCAA gets Dum Dum of the Week, they decided to schedule this game at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So you're probably wondering, well, what's so wrong with that? Why are you getting all qualmy and angry after the NCAA scheduled that at 5 p.m. Pacific time on a Sunday? You know what else is going on Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time? Sunday Night Football. Yeah, the NCAA dropped the ball, no pun intended, when it came to scheduling the Division III National Championship in football. I'm disappointed with the NCAA. It's like, you could have picked a better day. You could have maybe picked at least the front end before the NFL games. You could have picked Friday, where there was I think there wasn't any. Was there any college football games on Friday? I don't think there was, but either way, yeah, you could have picked a whole better day to have this national championship for Division III. Yeah, there was no college football on Friday. You could have chosen to have it on. You could have chosen to have it on the 10th. Well, no, not the 10th. The 3rd. You could have had the NCAA Division III National Championship on January 3rd. Instead, you chose to have it on a Sunday, where it's going to have to compete with the NFL, which the Vikings and the Lions were facing each other. It was the battle of 14-2 teams for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Of course, people are going to watch that over NCAA Division III football. So the NCAA has got to do a whole better job with that. And it's not just with that, but with other things as well. But I digress from that. But yeah, the NCAA, or whoever their Division III committee is, or whoever approved of having the NCAA Division III National Championship football game to be on a Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, where it's going to have to compete with the NFL, shame on you. Shame on you for having that happen, and you are Dum Dum of the Week because you made the biggest scheduling mistake ever. Never have anything go up against the NFL unless it's like something big. It feels like the FBS National Championship or the FCS National Championship, and it's going to be televised on, I don't know, maybe ESPN or ESPN2. Maybe that would maybe be a much better thing. But instead, you are having it go up on, you're televising this on ESPN Plus, and you're having it go up against the biggest Sunday Night Football game and football game altogether of the season. So I'm very disappointed in the NCAA and the committee for approving this, and they could have done a much better job. Heck, they could have had it on Monday night. They could have moved the game to Monday night instead. There's no Monday Night Football. Like, NCAA, what are you thinking? Like, I'm sorry, but that could have definitely been avoided. Or, well, then again, it would have competed with the FCS, but still, you could have had it earlier. You could have had it at noon. You could have had one game at noon, and then maybe or maybe have it 3 hours back of the FCS game, or 4 hours back of the NCS game, or FBS game. Look, I'm just saying this could have definitely been avoided in terms of like preventing the this college football game having to compete with like the NFL. Because when it comes to like a Division III game, it's going to be featured only on ESPN Plus, as opposed to being a nationally televised game that's going to be featured on it's going to be featured all over the world. It's not going to be losing. So to whoever scheduled the NCAA Division III college football game at 5 p.m. Pacific time on a Sunday, you're dumb of the week. 2 thumbs down, unjustified. You're dumb. Anyway, but that is that for the dumb of the week. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I do want to give my prayers, thoughts, and condolences to everyone that's being affected by the fires in Pacific Palisades. And I'm sending all my prayers and thoughts to everyone that's been affected, and sending all the thoughts and prayers to the first responders. We definitely appreciate you, first responders. And if you're in the area of the Pacific Palisades, please, please, please evacuate. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just get the heck out of Pacific Palisades and get to safety. And please, please, please don't go anywhere near that fire. And anyone whose lives were lost, well, my condolences to you and your family. And I wish you nothing but the best. And hopefully no one is badly hurt or affected by this. So again, sending my love all throughout the Pacific Palisades and all of this from that entire area. Please don't go anywhere near it and whatnot. And if you are, then hopefully you are safe. But yeah, sending all the love to Pacific Palisades. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the wrestling action. Enjoy all the SoCal sports happening. Go Rams, go Chargers. Rams house, baby. Bolt up. Hopefully the Rams will be able to play at SoFi Stadium. That's going to be monitored by the NFL. But I'll see you all Saturday for Mega 3 and Out, and I'll see you all on Monday for Set Point. Have a great rest of the weekend, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace! Bolt up, baby, and Rams house.